Welcome to Hawke's Bay App's Tukituki Candidates Debate. Thanks to Number 5 Cafe and Larder for hosting us. It's quite fitting that we're here because obviously they've just reopened after having been hit by the cyclone, and really good to have them open and to be hosting us. And thanks to Engage Video for producing and broadcasting this for us as well. But the main candidates, or the main show in town is the candidates. So thanks to them for joining us. We've got Rob Douglas of ACT, we've got Catherine Wedd of National, the incumbent MP, Labour's Anna Hawke, and Nick Ratcliffe of the Green Party. So thank you all for joining us. So what we'll do is we're going to start with 2 minutes introduction, and then we'll get on to the questions. And during the questions, you'll be able to interject and we'll have a bit of a debate, but let's all be polite with each other if we can. All right, we'll start with you, Rob. Thank you.
Well, look, I'm a proud Kiwi, and New Zealand has so much going for it. Yet the polls tell us that New Zealanders know this country is going in the wrong direction. This election is your chance to save the Kiwi dream. We are getting left behind the rest of the Western world. Under National, our median wage slipped from $11,000 to $17,000 behind Australia. Under Labour, it has slipped further from $17,000 to $23,000 behind Australia. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect different results. There is a way to do better, and ACT has those policies. But New Zealand needs ACT to have a strong voice around the table to ensure we get real change this election. Prison reduction targets is not the solution to crime. Actually reducing crime is. Taxing everything and spending everything is not the solution to our cost of living crisis. We actually need to increase our productivity through less red tape and cutting taxes so that we can pay higher wages and increase our standard of living, ensuring that we can afford a world-class health and education system once again. And categorising everybody based on who their ancestors were is not the way to take New Zealand forward, united together. Instead, we should value the treaty for what it is and treat everybody with the same dignity. If you are in control, it is your opportunity. Please give your party vote to ACT for real change this election.
Thank you, Rob. Catherine, over to you.
Well, thanks for having us here today, Andrew. I'm Catherine Wedd, the National Party candidate for Tukituki, and people are often asking me at the moment, why politics? Well, politics has been in my blood since I was a little girl growing up on a farm. My grandfather was a National Party MP, and I was also a New Zealand Youth MP. I went on to university and studied politics and law, and then upon leaving, I went into broadcasting and became a TV1 news journalist, and I covered a lot of political stories. And then over at the BBC in London, I also covered a lot of political stories. But moving back to here to Hawke's Bay 13 years ago with my husband, we had our 4 young children, and I moved into the horticulture sector, head of marketing for Bostock, New Zealand, and on the board of New Zealand Apples and Pears. And during these roles, I stood on the global stage promoting the premium produce that we grow here in Hawke's Bay to the world, adding value to the incredible produce that we grow here, diversifying our markets. And I see huge potential for Tukituki as a food-producing region. Yet I've seen firsthand a Labour government absolutely strangle our growers and our farmers with red tape, bureaucracy, compliance, making it really, really challenging to do business. We need to be more aspirational for our food producers, and that's why I'm standing up now to be your next local MP, to back our farmers, back our growers and back our primary industries, because when they're doing well, everyone's doing well, and we're strengthening our economy. It's got to be 2 ticks blue to get Tukituki back on track. Party vote National, and I humbly ask you for your support for the candidate vote, Catherine Wedd for Tukituki. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Anna Hawke, over to you.
Thank you, Andrew, for having us. Hello, Hawke's Bay app followers. As your local MP, I go into this election on a track record for getting things done. Take a look at Hastings and Hawke's Bay, and you can see over the last 6 years what a difference it's made, having record investment coming into our region. This is a big change from having to have mayors begging for government for money to invest in our region. We have made a difference. 333 public homes built and another 200 on the way. That compares to just 6 built under the national government and 190 that we lost. We've built a record number of investments into the region to grow jobs and back local businesses. A $32 million aquatic centre. And we've got the roads underway and the pipes in the ground for another 4,000 homes to be built across Hastings. It's things like this that make a difference. 900 million invested into the cyclone recovery to build back resilience, build back our bridges and our roads. And I am incredibly proud of the work we have done that is going to secure backing government $1.1 billion to build our regional hospital. I go into this on a track record of getting things done. I'm asking you to vote Anna Hawke, your hard-working MP who fights tooth and nail for Tukituki.
Thank you, Anna. Nick Ratcliffe, your turn.
Kia ora. Tēnā koutou e hoa mā, ko Nick Ratcliffe tōku ingoa, he kaitono rohe pōti ahau ki te Pāti Kākariki a rohe a Tukituki. Nō reira, tēnā koutou. Good day everybody, my name is Nick Ratcliffe. I am the Green Party's candidate for the Tukituki electorate. I am asking for your party vote. Aotearoa is out of balance right now. We have a situation where the top few percent in our society controls 50% of the wealth, while the bottom 50% control just 2%. We have 311 families at the top of the top of the top percent, controlling as much as double the amount of wealth as that bottom 50%, and paying an effective tax rate of half what those of us who are working hard all week are paying. So the Green Party's proposal is to introduce a fairer tax system that will tax the wealthy, tax corporations at not an immodest rate, the rate that we used to tax them at prior to the global financial crisis in 2008, and use that money to make sure that everyone has a safe, warm, dry, healthy place to call home, meaningful work, protect our oceans, protect our taiao, and ensure that everybody has a good shot at life. So in closing, please party vote Green this election. The time is now. Ko tēnei te wā. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, candidates, for those opening remarks, and we'll get on to the questions. I'll start with a fairly easy one. We'll start with you, Rob. What is your best characteristic as a person and as a politician, would you say?
Characteristic? Oh, look, I'm an honest guy, and I think that probably is the best attribute. Look, I will work really hard as well. I've always been a hard worker. Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to put it right into my role as a politician. There's no way I'm going to slack off until I get New Zealand back running where it should again, you know?
Okay, great. And you, Catherine, same question to you.
I'm an extremely positive person. I'm very hardworking and efficient, and I really like to get outcomes and deliver, and I believe that those are really key attributes for a politician and for being the next local MP for Tukituki. But I'm also a communicator, and I love people. I'm a people person, and I really enjoy advocating for people, standing up for them, and I think that also is another attribute that will be key to being a good, effective MP for our region.
Great. Anna, well, you've been MP. You can tell us what your characteristics as a person and a politician are.
I think the thing that I do is I listen. It's so important when you are working with people in a role like being the local MP that you spend time really listening to people and hearing what they need and what they think. I've learnt over the years that I often learn more from people who I don't necessarily agree with, and I don't think that's a bad thing. As a person on the ground, I am a real connector. I've made sure that I can be as accessible and available as possible to anyone and everyone who wants to see me. It's so important to be able to work right across the political spectrum when you're the local MP, because you can't just work for a single sector, you've got to work for everyone.
Okay.
And it's about getting things done.
Great. Nick, over to you. What's your outstanding characteristic?
I often describe myself as likeable, which people think is kind of a funny word to use to describe yourself, but there it is. People tend to like me. I have a diplomatic personality as well. I like to find the middle ground. That helps me get along with everybody, almost everybody. So those are important values to me, and kindness, and compassion. I want to see everybody do well. Yeah. Great.
Now, there's a possibility that the first three of you might all end up in Parliament, depending which polls you believe. Now, if all of you do get in, will you be able to put aside personal issues and party differences to work together for the good of Hawke's Bay? Rob?
Oh, look, absolutely. I am here for the betterment of New Zealand. Not only New Zealand, but Hawke's Bay as well. I'll work with whoever is prepared to further those interests.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've all got to work together as a region, and we all want the best outcomes for the region at the end of the day, and that's really important.
Yeah. Anna?
I think it'd be amazing if you got the strongest representation for Tukituki. That is an incredible record if we could get 3 MPs.
Well, it would mean that you would retain your seat, so you would like that.
Well, absolutely. And I think it's important that we do show that we can work together. Catherine and I have worked together for 6 years in the business that I built. We've had to work on local campaigns together.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that we put the region first and foremost.
Okay, great. Now, Nick, obviously you're not wanting to be MP of Tukituki, but does your involvement with the Green Party end on election day?
No, certainly not. I've been a member of the local branch of the party for 7 years. I've been treasurer of the local branch. I'm number 25 on the list, and the way the Green Party's tracking in the polls at the moment, I've got a half a chance of getting a seat in Parliament. If everybody party votes Green, then we're all good. Green landslide, 25 seats would be great. So half a chance of all 4 of us getting in.
Well, there we go. Let's hope.
That's super positive.
Yeah, that is positive. So now you've all given your opening remarks and that, and a lot of it was what your party and what you stand for and that. But what are you each promising, either if you're going to be elected as MP or even if people give you your party vote? What are you promising that you will personally do for the voters?
Well, look, I guess I've got a lot of experience in housing. I'm a property valuer. I'm also involved with a bit of property development. And for me, I can see how broken our housing system is, how hard it is to get anything done and built in this country. For me, I know I can add a lot of value in that area to lower the cost of high quality, affordable private sector homes in this country. I can see from my dealings when as a property valuer, I go into people's homes, I go into people's businesses all the time, and you get a real appreciation for someone by seeing how they're living and that sort of thing, and you can tell the value that it has to someone when they own their own home, when they are able to pay their mortgage affordably and that sort of thing. It means a lot to their self-fulfillment, their well-being, and if I can help, which I know I can, bring down the cost of housing, make it more affordable and higher quality, then that is going to be a great way that I can contribute.
Okay, great. Catherine, what do you promise to the voters of Tukituki that you personally will do for them?
Well, I think in Tukituki at the moment, I've been knocking on thousands of doors, and the number one issue for many people is the cost of living. People are feeling hardship like they've never felt before. And so it comes back to a strong economy. We need to strengthen this economy.
But that's your party. What are you going to do? That is right,
but that for me personally, I feel that I add a lot of value as the fruit bowl of New Zealand. Hastings is the fruit bowl of New Zealand. We are massive in horticulture here, and we have seen a government that has absolutely strangled our growers and our farmers with a lot of bureaucracy, red tape, regulation. It's so hard to do business and grow that sector, and we've had the brakes put on, and I am going to advocate for our food producers here in Tukituki and be aspirational, and let's get the wheels moving, and I'll be a super strong advocate for our primary industries here in Tukituki, because that's what's going to drive our country out of the debt that this Labour government has got us into. We need to be more aspirational for our food producers.
Thank you. Anna, what are you promising the voters of Tukituki?
Well, my big thing is to get the funding for the Hawke's Bay Regional Hospital. Having been a former DHB board member,
that National had committed to back in 2020 the hospital. So it's quite interesting that Labour is now committing to that hospital after many, many years.
Just weeks out from the election.
Like literally just weeks out from
What's
the election.
What's your response to that, Anna?
And so, when we had made that commitment and Labor took it off the table, and we're only just putting it back on the table now.
You asked me what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've been an MP for 3 years. I have worked tooth and nail to get $1.1 billion committed to build our hospital and to get that business case
underway. But the business case hasn't been done. So how do you know that it costs $1.1 billion when you actually still got to do the business case?
Okay, Catherine.
So it's basically a promise for a business case.
Let her finish.
As I have just said, we have had the most incredible commitment of $1.1 billion to build this hospital. All of the feasibility and serious work that's been underway over these last 3 years means that in those first 100 days, we can get that business case underway. Now, what I will say to that is that the most important thing is that we have the region committed to being engaged in that, and that's the difference.
But Catherine does have a point.
But we committed to the hospital back in 2020.
Can I just
since then,
all right.
We've had a government that has chosen to centralise the health system, spend billions of dollars doing it, and we've got huge labour shortages. There's many issues in the health system, and then a few weeks out from the election, you promise a hospital here in Hawke's Bay. We all want a hospital.
And
we
the point
100%
is,
we're absolutely committed to trying to build a hospital. But Labor couldn't even build the Dunedin hospital and keep on budget.
Can I have a
time?
Are you okay for me to
Okay, one at a time.
Would you like me to? Because you've done nothing for the hospital, Catherine. You have not
But
been interested in health
I'm
ever.
100%.
No, you haven't.
We're absolutely 100% committed to health in Hawke's Bay.
No, you're not.
Ensuring
You cannot
that we not only
You've refused
build the
one at a
hospital,
time.
but we relieve the labour shortages that we're seeing. We've got to train more nurses.
We
Okay,
talked
Catherine.
We talked a minute ago about what it means to work together on an issue that's important for this region.
Yeah, and 100% health is a really important issue, but we're just got different...
If you were true to your word, you would have said, fantastic, good on you, Anna, Well done.
Yeah, but,
So
but we're
why-
not disagreeing
Let
with you.
Rob
We're
say.
not disagreeing
Rob?
with you. We
No,
all
but
want a
you
hospital.
won't let me
No
finish.
one will disagree that
Look, if
we
you guys
need
just
a
gonna talk over the
hospital.
top of each
No,
other,
but we
we'll
need
do
a
nothing.
hospital in Hawke's Bay. We're not disagreeing
Okay.
with
But
that.
you won't
100%.
commit.
National
You
committed
will
to
not-
it.
No, you haven't.
National
In
committed to it
2025.
in 2020.
And
In
We committed to building the
2025.
hospital in 2020. Labour
No,
came in, took it
no,
off the
we
table.
did not.
And
Voters-
here you are,
Okay.
a couple of weeks out from an election,
All right, we're gonna move on.
committing
We're gonna
to
move on.
a hospital.
We're gonna move
and
on.
we're
And
not
I think
disagreeing.
it's
We all want a
But
hospital.
we're gonna move
But
on
can
now.
we believe Labour on their track record in terms of delivery?
So
They spend a lot of
National's
money
track
on bureaucracy.
record, National's
That's
track
not
record.
a lot of
You
money
won't let me finish.
on
You just won't
delivery.
let me finish.
Okay.
I think it's fair that I get to have at least a minute without you interrupting me.
Well,
Do you think you could do that?
30
So-
seconds.
You're gonna have
30
no.
seconds.
So, Labour is the only government who has invested in capital infrastructure into our regional hospital in over a decade. National gave not one single cent to our hospital. I've committed 1.21 billion. 1.1
Well, your
billion.
party
I
has committed.
have worked
Your party has
entirely
committed.
hard to get that.
1.1
you
billion.
will not get. You offered, Lawrence, you offered to give Hawke's Bay a half pie, 500 million in 2025.
National had committed to it in 2020. It is a fact.
2025.
It is a fact
No, you
that
committed
National had committed
in
to the hospital in
2025.
2020.
No,
Okay,
so
Rob.
now you're
This is-
coming in a few weeks out from an
25.
election,
Okay,
not promising a
you-
hospital.
Catherine, Rob
No,
wants to
I
say
This-
something.
this
Rob, your
is,
turn.
This is an example, Anna. You say you've invested in the hospital, but you've invested about $10 billion or $10 million in the theatre.
68 million so
$68
far.
million in the theatre,
New
right? Okay.
operating theatre.
Why on earth would you be doing that if if you were planning a business case to build a brand new one in a few
Because
years' time?
the
This is an
serious-
example
But
of
that's an
Labour's
example of the
wasteful
wasteful
spending.
spending with
And
no
the other
vision,
thing-
no
the
plan.
other thing,
Okay,
Anna,
one at a
is
time,
that
please.
You promised a new school in Havelock North in 2017.
No,
You promised it again in
National-
2020.
National
Nothing.
trucked in
You did
10
But nothing's been built.
absolutely
Nothing has been built
classrooms.
except for
Okay.
all of the
Took it off the
classrooms that
table.
National committed
Na-
to.
only
and we
because
put
you wouldn't
classrooms
build a new
into
school.
the schools.
You wouldn't build a
in
new school.
Havelock
Do you
North.
not?
National
Do you
But
not?
we
not
put the
build the new
classrooms
school.
into the schools.
Okay.
in Havelock
All right, we're
North.
gonna move on.
And that is fact.
Catherine,
and
we're
those
gonna move on
classrooms
now.
have been wonderful. They've been the most
You're gonna
amazing
move on now.
classrooms.
We're
But you
gonna
were
move on.
I've
campaigning-
experienced those
Over
classrooms.
to you. Okay, I know you're not wanting to get into Parliament, but just in terms of your party, just tell me what you are promising.
Yeah, I mean, we all want a new hospital. My big question is who's going to pay for it? Because the way the tax system works in Aotearoa at the moment is you get taxed the more work you do, and we don't actually tax wealth. We don't actually tax money. So when we talk about funding a new hospital, what we're actually talking about is getting doctors and nurses to pay for it instead of billionaires.
Well,
aside from that, what would I do for Tukituki if I found myself in a seat in Parliament? We have climate change knocking on our doorstep. This very room was closed to the public for most of this year following Cyclone Gabrielle. We know Cyclone Gabrielle was 25% or something more intense because of man-made climate change. The promise that the facts have shown us so far this century is that what climate change means is increased frequency, increased intensity of extreme weather events. Yeah. It's knocking on our doorstep, and it's knocking on our door. It's arrived on our doorstep, and we have to tackle it.
And we'll get on to climate change. We've got a segment for that.
Hey.
Look, can I just address that wealth tax thing? Because it's actually really important to the country that we don't have a wealth tax.
You can't pay for things.
In 1990, 12 countries around the world had a wealth tax. Currently, 3 do. The reason why...
But you
in
want
Norway,
to freeze
Norway,
the
for
minimum
example...
wage for 3
So are you campaigning
years?
for a wealth tax too?
No.
Okay.
But you want to freeze
capital gains
the minimum
tax.
No.
But many of your party do want it, and that's the really worrying thing.
Labour has increased the minimum wage by $7.
Absolutely. And what has it done? Why don't you just make it $1,000, Anna?
$250 a week more for the lowest paid workers in our country.
You can't legislate people to be better off. If you want
I
to...
just think that
if
the
you
only
wanna-
way to
look,
increase
if
wages
it was-
is to help
is
bring
to
people No,
exactly.
you want
The
to-
only
you want-
way is to
you want
legislate, is
to
it?
Freeze,
No.
you want to freeze the minimum wage for 3 years. National Act and New Zealand First together, a coalition of cuts and layoffs.
National, that is not our policy.
Yes,
that is
but
not
you're
our
going
policy.
in. You're
That is not
going
our
into
policy.
coalition.
We have never said that. You can't
You
make
have
up
gone-
policies
yes,
right on the spot.
You
And
are
speaking
going
of chaos,
into coalition.
I
I think we do pretty well, don't you, Nick? And I
more
think that that's
economic
the whole thing.
mismanagement,
Okay.
dysfunction
Okay, I'm
and
just going to
demise.
ask you all to let each other talk. If someone's talking, because none of us are hearing anything if you're all talking over each other. We're going to move on. Cyclone recovery. Rob, how do you think it's been handled? As short as you can be on this.
Well, look, initially, we had a real crime wave, which was a major problem. There was no recognition of the situation, and now I think we are heading into a situation where there is being an awful lot of money being thrown at a problem without any real checks and balances.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, we'd put in a lot more checks and balances in place.
Legislation.
We've also got a number of processes
red tape.
that will free up the whole ability for business to get on and do it themselves. At the moment, there's red tape and regulation right through our systems. And if you get rid of a lot of those, you can make it happen a lot easier.
Catherine, how would you do it differently? How's it been handled?
I think that it's been a long time and people are still waiting in limbo. But it certainly didn't help that we did have a lack of leadership from Labor. We had one cyclone recovery minister who went, and then the next one also
But what would
then
you do
went.
differently,
And then we
Catherine?
also then had another
What
one
would you do?
that
Because
came
there's
in from
nothing
outside
that
the region.
National
Okay.
So
has
this
not
caused a lot of
committed
extra stress.
anything but Labor.
Just one at a time,
I'm just
please.
saying
But
that
we
this
not-
caused a lot of
One at a
extra
time.
stress. And I suppose when there is a natural
what would
disaster, you
National
need
commit?
good, strong leadership on the ground. And we just
had
did
strong
not see
leadership
that.
on the
No,
ground.
we didn't.
Yes, we did.
We
We
had
had
3
ministers
cyclone
coming in,
recovery
we had
ministers. We had the
Kieran
first one
McNulty
go, then
coming
we had the
in.
second one
Okay,
go,
one at a
then
time.
the third
Okay.
one go. And then,
So
no,
And I
I
just let
think-
has
Catherine
the Prime
finish.
Minister, has he been and seen those
Yes, he
communities
has.
and
He
actually
has.
stood on the ground
He has.
and
I've
actually been...
taken him to Pakafai.
Well, they
and
don't feel
stood-
like that. The
I've
communities
taken
have
the
felt
Now, one
like
of your
they have been
proposals,
left in limbo
Catherine-
by this
Catherine,
government. And I'll
what
just
would
say
nothing,
to the horticulture
absolutely
sector,
nothing.
we've had over
Not
almost
a single-
$3.5 billion worth of damage. Excuse me,
Not
you
a
just asked for
single-
your minute.
you
I'm
interrupted-
asking for
you
my minute
interrupted
now.
me for a
$3.5
lot.
billion worth of damage done to the horticulture sector.
But
And
nothing
that's
for the
propping up
growers on
over
top of that.
7,000
But Catherine,
jobs.
one of
No,
your
but-
proposals is an ombudsman. Is that not just
Yes.
going to create more bureaucracy
Absolutely.
and
No,
more red tape?
absolutely.
No,
We've already
because
got
what,
it above
no,
ombudsman.
because
We've
what
already
these
got
people
one.
need, they need to be heard and they need an independent ombudsman to listen to some of those individual cases.
Okay.
And so we believe that that is a good way forward for people. I mean, so many people are still in limbo. They've lost all of their livelihoods. They're
Okay.
not getting any progress.
All right,
and so
Anna,
we
what do
feel
you have to
that's
say?
one of ours, but also EQC. We need to unblock EQC
Okay.
and we need to get that moving, but we also need to make sure that we're building resilient infrastructure. And we've already said that we will carry on the commitments that Labor has already committed to
Okay.
in
Now,
terms of the
Anna,
funding.
you would obviously say that it's been handled well. Is there anything that you could have done differently?
I think in any disaster, you were going to be able to look back and say, if we could have done this better. I'm not going to say that it's been perfect. What
Yeah.
I think we did do well is we stood up a locally led recovery and worked with the 5
Did that
councils.
work? Has locally led worked?
I believe when you look at where Hawke's Bay is compared to Auckland, we are ahead of everyone. We've got the Category 3 property owners getting that finalised. We've had 900 million committed to building back for our recovery. I take real issue with Catherine saying that there wasn't leadership. Leadership doesn't always come from the front. I've been
But
on
it
that
did.
ground
You have to
and
admit
I have
that
been
when you've got a
working
cyclone
with
recovery minister
Kieran
Okay,
McNulty-
just
there
let
and as a
Kieran
costings, and then you have
McNulty-
another one, and then
Kieran-
you have a third one.
I
You've
don't,
got to admit
my
that
work
that creates
on the
further
ground,
stress.
My work on the ground helps significantly in helping people on everyday things.
So you're saying there
That's my
was
job.
local leadership?
But you need
It was
overarching,
absolutely
Anna. You
locally-
need
local
you need.
leadership.
Okay,
And
let's-
we got
let's-
the
okay.
funding out.
Okay, let Catherine
it's
respond.
not how people are feeling. Seriously, I think that you need strong leadership from government, and we didn't see it. We had 3 cyclone recovery ministers.
Where was your
You know,
leadership?
Where was your leadership?
We had a lot of people. We
Where?
had
Chris
Christopher
Bank
Luxon
and
was here
people that
about
people
4 or
don't
5
even know.
times. Christopher Luxon was here 4 or 5 times. Nicola Willis was
But
here.
what
Chris
did they
Bank, our
do,
cyclone
Catherine?
recovery minister.
What did
we
they
put
do?
a lot of pressure
Minister,
on
he's not
government.
minister yet.
Sorry,
think-
spokesperson.
I think the most important
Spokesperson.
thing to acknowledge is that the region actually worked tirelessly together. There is nobody in any of those leadership roles.
I think that people
But is
who
that on the
communities,
councils
the
or is
communities,
that on the
I think
government?
communities worked, like the farmers got out there, the orchardists, the growers, people were shoveling themselves.
But
It was an
everybody
amazing
should-
display of
$900
unity from our
million
communities.
has
And
been
but that
committed.
is
Of both
not-
sides of the aisle.
Yeah, that is.
But I think, again, there's been $900 million and National isn't committing anything else. National didn't come out and say they were going to
So
save
even
growers.
the silk removal, there's
National
obviously
has not said
you
that
asked
they
what
would do
you asked
anything.
what the types of things that we're doing, because when you're in opposition, obviously it's harder. We don't hold the purse strings, but what we can do,
really
is
politicised
put
the
pressure
cyclone.
on where it's needed.
But
so
you haven't put
when
any
obviously
pressure
the
on.
silt,
Not a single
the
piece
money
of
ran
pressure
out last
has
week.
gone on.
When the
Okay.
silt money
No,
ran out
no,
last
hold
week,
on.
we
Anna, let
sent
her
a
finish.
letter. We went sent a letter straight away and
Oh,
said,
a
"Look,"
letter.
no,
A letter.
because to Kieran McNulty, our
I
cyclone
picked up the
recovery
phone. I
spokesperson,
picked up the
Okay.
phone to Kieran
No, no, no.
and to the business and to the minister,
but
and
we
more
put
money out
pressure
the door.
on, National
We-
put pressure
another
on and said,
Okay,
look,
hold
we
on.
need more,
Okay.
we need
It
more
wasn't
money,
your
All right,
we need
okay.
more money.
We're going to move
They
on.
need 18
We're going to move
million,
on.
and
Nick?
then the
It
government
wasn't your
allocated
pressure.
10
You
million,
did
but
nothing,
it's still
Catherine.
not enough.
Okay.
We
You
did
didn't do a
a lot.
No,
We're
you
doing
didn't.
a lot.
No,
We're
you
doing
Okay.
a lot.
You
All right.
didn't do a
We're going to
thing.
move on. Nick, how do you think the recovery has been handled and what would you do differently?
I was so proud of the Hawke's
Yeah,
Bay community.
absolutely.
There
Thanks.
was
Oh,
there was a
thanks,
vacuum.
Nick.
There was a little bit of a vacuum left from the top-down approach. There was some strange stories about. I went up the Esk Valley and talked to some people up there, and they said there were civil defence arrived from Napier and then went away, and then it arrived from Taupo and then it went away again. So there was some, and large-scale NGOs, there was some disappointment on that side as well. What we learned, the best thing we learned was the resilience of our communities. Our communities are resilient. People stepped up. Farmers and growers, as has been said, but also marae opened their doors, churches opened their doors,
But also leadership right across the region.
temples opened their doors. And as a community, we stepped up and showed our resilience. Lack of resilience was also exposed, lack of infrastructure resilience. Our infrastructure is not resilient to climate change.
Yeah.
We were lucky, basically, that the 2 bridges that didn't get washed out were the 2 highways. The train
And that's
line-
why we need that 4-lane expressway. I
Which
think.
Labor's
we'll-
already
Well,
funded.
no,
Which
no, because of-
Labour scrapped,
No,
Labour
okay.
took off the
We'll get
table.
on to that.
National
No, we
will be
didn't take it off the
committing to
table.
4-lane
did.
expressways is not
100%.
building. That's not building
Okay, well,
resilience. Resilience
Nick,
is
we're going to
about
get on to the
providing
4-lane
options.
highway in a
Yeah.
little bit, if you let me actually carry on with the questioning. And once again, I just ask you to let each other talk. So we're going to talk about climate change now because it is a natural pathway onto this. Rob, people say that we've had a real good example with Cyclone Gabrielle of what climate change is going to bring. How do we build resilience, and how, as Nick says, and how do we prepare for this? When you had 1 in 500-year bridges built to withstand events, 1 in 500, washed away like crazy, how do we build that infrastructure that lasts?
Look, I'm no engineer. I'm housing, not an engineer. Look, I can't get into the technical details. But look, the reality is you've got to get the right people involved, and but it needs to be funded in a way that is affordable, and needs to be built in a way that's affordable. And at the moment, I think all the other parties in Parliament are essentially offering a one-size-fits-all. The government will tax and pay for it. We say, actually, in New Zealand, we need to be a bit more flexible about how we're going to afford to pay for infrastructure in this country. We're not just talking about roading infrastructure, but there's a number of infrastructure items that in this country we are in major deficit on.
Water.
For example, the housing, the hospital here. There is good reason to be very concerned about the quality of our hospital and how it would go through in an earthquake. You've seen how well Kāweka Hospital. You have seen how well Kāweka Hospital was built within like 2 years. It was just bang, it was up. Didn't cost the taxpayers a cent. We know that
we're going to privatise the hospital. Is that
what? Listen a sec. I'll tell you what we're going to do.
She's got a good point. Are you suggesting privatise?
No,
hospitals?
what we are suggesting though is that we can provide a whole lot of public provided surgeries through private hospitals.
We do that already.
And make far better use of those private resources, and it would mean that we take a lot of pressure off the need to build public infrastructure. We can also build a whole lot more roading through tolling systems. 80% of people choose to take the Northern Gateway
Would you
in
toll the
Northland.
4-lane highway?
And we wouldn't toll any existing roads.
Oh, right, the new
we would
4-lane
only
expressway.
toll
Would you
new
toll that?
alternative routes. But what it does is it gives someone a choice they don't currently have.
National's going
And
to toll the
80% of people choose to take them in Northern
We've never
Gateway.
said that.
And what's more, it takes pressure off the
never said that.
existing
No, you
infrastructure
can't
that the
make things up.
taxpayer has paid for. So, it's a win-win for everyone. And then after about 30 years, depending on the arrangement with the provider, you take it back, it becomes a public resource.
Sounds very easy. Okay, now, Catherine, what do you say about climate change? How do you build that infrastructure and resilience?
So National is 100% committed to reducing our emissions
You've got to
and
push it out,
reaching
though.
our
You're not
climate
going
change
to.
targets.
You're taking it off,
Just
you're
mine, it's
taking
my
it
turn
hold.
to speak.
Okay.
It's my turn to
When
speak.
I challenged you,
And so we were the ones
Yeah.
that committed to the Paris Agreement back in 2015, but
you're
there's
moving
various
on now.
ways that we can meet our climate change targets, and it is not to penalise our most carbon efficient farmers
So when
in
are
the
you
world
going to actually
and
pay for
send
climate
20%
change?
of that productivity
Anna's got a point.
offshore.
When are you
going to
So
pay?
we
Going to
believe
pay
When are you
that
going to pay for it?
we've got transport emissions, and we're going to focus on that.
Oh, so you're going to
no,
charge
listen,
more
listen.
transport
No, we're at the
emissions.
moment.
Emissions.
We want to move towards renewable energy. Okay, so fossil fuels, away from fossil fuels.
We have
and move,
renewable energy. We're
Yep,
nearly
solar,
there.
wind.
Okay,
but
one
at
at
the
a time.
moment, to build a wind farm or a solar farm, it can take up to 8-10
Have you
years
heard of
for the
fast
resource
tracking?
consenting. And
Fast
so we're
tracking?
going to
We've
fast track
consent.
those resource consents
No, we're already
to,
doing that,
to a
Catherine.
year.
We're
Oh, well,
already doing
well, you
that,
haven't
fast
delivered.
tracking.
We haven't seen
We
a lot
have
of
seen
building or
fast
delivery.
tracking.
And so if we want to electrify New Zealand and power up New Zealand, we need the infrastructure to do it. And National, as the party of infrastructure, we've got an incredible track record in terms of delivery in that infrastructure
But some might
space.
say
And
that
we will
climate
make
change
sure
is not on the
that
top of your
that we
agenda.
will double our renewable energy. That's what we're moving towards, and so we will reduce our emissions. And so
Okay.
that's how we're going to do it. We've got to be pragmatic. We've got to be sensible,
you're not
and we
taking
need
action on climate
delivery.
change,
We'll talk
Catherine.
about action
You're not
actually.
taking action.
Let's
No,
talk about
I want
Labor's
to-
action.
I
Okay.
think that
Let's
you
talk
need
about
to
Labor's
look.
action.
You need to look at the fact that you want to take the money that we're putting in aside to deal with climate change, and you want to use it to fund your $2.1 billion hole. Now that to me shows that you have no plan
No, we have got plans. We are
for
100%
climate change.
Okay, Anna, let
committed.
her
And I have
respond.
just said
Let
that.
her respond.
We just won't penalise our farmers.
But
And-
farmers do need
They-
to be part of it,
But the
Catherine.
farmers are. The
But
farmers
then-
are incredible.
Catherine,
they
you
are
want to
so
push them
sustainable.
out.
They are doing so much on farm, and yet Labor,
I think-
all
I
they
think
do
you- I
are
think
penalising them the
There
entire
are
time, not being
everything,
aspirational at
everybody
all.
needs to work towards it. And I think when you say that you are going to push out having to contribute towards that for how
Yes,
many
it
years?
is,
How
yes,
many years?
exactly, till
For the-
2030.
So you want to push that out? How are
Yes,
you,
because
and
we
how is
will
that going to
bring
help?
our farmers
How
and
is
our
that
primary
going to
sector
help?
along with
All right,
us, which
moving
is what
on,
Labor
Anna.
hasn't done. You've
How-
absolutely
Okay,
I actually
Catherine.
think the I actually think
villainised,
farmers,
inflicted a war
farmers have
on our
been doing.
farmers and our primary sector.
Okay,
in
thank you
Tukituki.
very much. Anna, even your coalition partner, Green Party, would say that you probably haven't done enough for climate change. What could the Labour Party do more, the Labour government do more?
I think where we need to focus is making sure that everybody is contributing in ways that they can help with emissions, and things like funding solar power on homes, things like looking at very small things like eliminating plastic bags. All those things contribute. Every single individual.
But aren't people doing
eliminating
that already?
plastic
But I
bags,
just- you
yet
just
putting
asked
plastic
me.
on the floors of all of our rural schools.
John Key
Putting
said
plastic on the floors
Okay.
of our rural schools.
So Catherine,
yet,
you can't
No, but
produce
that's what I'm
them
saying.
here.
So it's
Why?
ironic that you
Why?
get rid of the plastic
Why?
bags, but you're putting plastic on the floors
Okay,
of our
Catherine,
rural
let her
schools.
answer. Let her answer.
But that is...
Let her answer.
So we all want to see more wool products in our schools, but we don't have the manufacturing capability to do that here in New Zealand yet. We need to be investing more into that sort of capital infrastructure and backing our businesses.
But we need to support wool.
I just think
Wool is a
we
fantastic
we are,
product.
yes,
It's
Catherine,
an
but you know
environmentally friendly product
that
we
John,
produce
when we
so
go
much
into
of
trade,
here in Hawke's Bay.
and when we go into trade deals, we have to make sure that we are being fair and meeting those requirements. You can't just say, let's produce wool tiles tomorrow and scale it up to a point where it is competitive on the international market. Now, you know,
No, but we
in
can-
trade
we can
deals,
make a full
you know,
commitment
and
to-
we are making an absolute
We can make a commitment
push.
to our wool
Is National doing?
industry
Is
and
National
our
committing
farmers.
that?
But-
Is National
pardon?
committing today to put
We're not
wool
committing to
tiles?
anything today, but
No,
what
but
we're
you
saying
won't.
is that
You
there
won't.
we've got a product
You-
that we
you-
produce a
you
lot
won't.
of here in
National,
Hawke's Bay,
nor you
and we need
will
to
commit.
support that industry.
You won't commit.
All right. Well,
And
you're-
it's the
you're-
hypocrisy of it.
It's
that
the
matters.
hypocrisy
But
as well.
I've just,
Okay,
I've just
said
said that even the wool manufacturers will say we have not got the capacity to be able to scale up to be
But there
competitive
was-
on the international. If you want to talk about there was, what did happen
so-
is that we introduced, we had a lot of foreign buyers come in and buy our businesses, take our IP and move offshore. And you know that that saw the closure of
But
many,
what's that
many
got to do with
manufacturing
the
plants.
wool on the
Because
carpets?
that's the problem that we've had. We have not got the international scale that we need to compete. And that is part of our trade deals. And
Okay.
you know that.
All right,
Yeah.
moving on. Nick, your party stands for climate change. That's why the Green Party, really, that's
Yep.
your main thing.
Yep.
So have you, as a party, and you, been frustrated by sort of the handbrake of Labour?
Yeah, I mean, this is why we need more Green MPs in the next Parliament. We've been working with a diminishing number of Greens between the 2 elections ago and the last election. We need more, and it looks like we're going to get more, which is
Do you have
great
the
news.
talent pool for it, though?
Yeah, we've got 31 list candidates ready to go. So we can take up to a quarter of Parliament. No
So we
problem.
might see you there then.
Yeah, love that.
Now, highways versus railway, passenger rail in particular, or both? What do you say, Rob?
Oh, look, I mean, I sit in my
Four-lane
office.
highway in particular, four-lane motorway.
Oh, look, between Napier and Hastings.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's a good infrastructure investment and probably should be supported. We will work with National to come up with a practical infrastructure investment package like that. That will be properly researched, though. It's got to be properly researched, cost-benefit analysis, not done on the campaign trail, but done by proper research, and invest where it's necessary. But we'll also ensure that, you know, once we have that, we can do more by
And a
use of
passenger
private-
rail service, maybe between Gisborne all the way down?
No,
No. Okay.
absolutely not.
Catherine?
Oh, I think a resilient roading network drives productivity, and it's really important that we have good roads and build good roads.
So this
We've
is something
already
the two of
committed-
you agree
yes,
on, a
yes,
four-way
we've
motorway.
already
They
committed
haven't
to
funded it,
13
though.
roads
They've
of
not
national
shown
significance.
how to fund
Just
the
listen,
road.
it's my turn,
There's
and
But how will you fund
$10.1
it?
billion.
How will you fund it?
hole in your. How are you going to fund it? The Chinese.
No, it's very-
the Chinese. That's what you've suggested.
No, it's
the
been-
Chinese investment
it's-
coming in.
Okay.
It's all
Thank
being
you, Anna.
funded.
Let her
It's all
speak.
being funded, but just listen. Labor has not committed to one road, building roads. You have not got a track record. We've got potholes all over our roads. We've got the worst maintained
Because
roads
no
we've ever
maintenance
seen,
was
and we've had no
frozen underneath
no
them.
new roads
Wasn't
built
Transmission
in the
Gully
past
just
6
built?
years. Yeah, but
What about the
that had been
Manawatu
committed.
Highway,
That had been
Catherine?
committed
The
by
Manawatu
National.
Highway
So
that
the
is
roads of
being
national
built.
Okay,
significance.
hold on,
So
hold on.
Labor's quite happy to go and cut the ribbons on all of the roads of national significance that National had committed to, because Labor doesn't build roads. You know,
So
they've got
can
no track
I think I
record
can
of
Labour and
building
Green-
roads.
Labour
They
and
like to
Green.
slow
Maybe
people
continue.
down.
Okay.
They
Can
like
I
to slow
put some
people down,
context?
but
Okay.
not actually focus on
Let
building
Rob put
good
some context.
infrastructure
Rob?
that's going to get
The
more
road maintenance
productivity.
budget is now 78% of what it was in 2012. there are 60% more staff working in NZTA offices. That is how unfocused this government spending has been, and it needs to be got right.
Is that because the roads have been bad and they needed work on them?
No, but they're spending money on bureaucracy
they-
and lots of people in back offices down in Wellington rather than on the front line and actually delivering and getting outcomes.
Let me give you another example. As a property valuer, I value commercial offices quite regularly, and often they're big, larger offices. When I'm looking at larger office space in Hawke's Bay, in the olden days, like only going back 5, 6, 7 years ago, you were typically looking at private sector companies, larger accounting firms, that sort of, companies, lawyers, occupying those space. Nowadays, it's government department after government department after government department.
Yeah, in Hawke's Bay.
But that's right.
Absolutely, in Hawke's Bay.
And provincial New Zealand misses out. And that 4-lane expressway we'd committed to, Labor came in, got rid of it.
Can I respond to that?
And
Yes,
then
you can.
now they are suddenly committing to
let
a
her
road.
respond.
Now you're suddenly committing to the 4-lane expressway.
It was the Labor government that built the expressway, committed to that and made sure we had the road. We bought the land on each side to be able to build it. Catherine says that we took it off the table. Lawrence Yule stood on an unfunded promise for a 4-lane expressway and the voters didn't vote for him.
But
what
you're right.
happened.
But you did take it off the table.
You didn't carry through.
We are absolutely
You didn't carry through.
committed.
Suddenly
And
it's
then
like
we
the
had
hospital.
COVID.
You're just
We
committing to
had
it
COVID.
now
No.
and saying, oh, we're going to
No,
build
we
the
had
4-lane
Catherine,
expressway
let
and
her
we're going to
finish.
build the
We had
hospital,
COVID.
Okay,
which are
Catherine.
two things
And
that
sin-
we had already committed to.
Okay.
So it's just
but you
interesting
didn't fund it,
that you're
and you've
suddenly
got
saying you're going to
no
build
way,
roads. But the
no
question
way.
was around
Okay,
roading
all right.
and passenger
I think
trails.
you've had your say now.
Yeah.
Respond, Karen.
So we're fully funding the 4-lane expressway. It's shovel ready and ready to go, and that will get underway. But what the difference is, we're going to fund it
You've
from
had
Omaha
6 years.
Road.
You've had 6 years to do it.
We've also
She's
dealt
right,
with
you've had
COVID.
6
We've
years.
had
And
6 years
we've
to
dealt
suddenly
with
have this
COVID.
shovel-ready project
And we've dealt with
be
COVID.
ready to go.
And we've dealt with COVID. And to
Well,
be
COVID
honest,
seems to be the
Catherine,
excuse for absolutely
we-
everything.
right.
In the
so,
process-
No,
so
but it does.
COVID
It does.
is an
GFC
excuse.
was National's excuse
COVID
for
is
everything.
an excuse.
No, but I'm saying that
I
no.
think
I'm saying that you
is one
no,
of the
you
worst
are,
things
no. I'm
you
saying
could
that you
possibly
keep
say.
on saying that
COVID,
it's
no,
COVID.
I just
the bureaucracy, the regulation, the compliance, the cost, the wasteful
There is-
spending.
Bring
is
back
not-
passenger
is
rail.
not- is
That
not-
is something that
is
I
not COVID.
absolutely
You
Well,
can't
tell
be
me.
blaming- you
So,
can't blame
Anna,
COVID.
So you believe there should be a passenger rail from Gisborne down or from where?
I think we should be working on getting that feasibility
Totally.
study that I fought
But there's
to
so
get onto
many
the
other
Hawke's
things
Bay.
that we need to focus
Absolutely.
on
I can
for
give
our
you-
region in
Is
terms
right.
of building
Before you waste
roads.
your money on the feasibility
Okay.
study, I can tell you right now, it won't stack up. You go and have a look at the Hamilton to Auckland
Or
rail,
another
rail
working
network.
group.
That
Or another
doesn't even
announcement.
stack up.
We are
Why
at
would you waste a whole lot
Okay.
of taxpayers'
All right.
money on a
Listen,
feasibility
a
study?
feasibility
I can
study
even
and
tell you it
working
doesn't
group.
work.
Okay.
I think that we've got
It's just another
we've
example
another
of
feasibility
reckless
rail. It's not
spending
right. We need
on
to
consultants
make sure
and
that
rather.
we get it done. And I think that regional rail is something. When I've been out on the hustings, when
Well,
I've worked,
But we
for
have
3
to look
years-
at the focus right now
One at a time.
in Hawke's Bay. When we've had a cyclone, we've had our roads and our bridges
Did I
and
say it
everything
has to
wiped
happen
out.
tomorrow?
We have
No.
to look at what we really need right now.
And
And so
what
we
we-
need to focus on rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding our roads and our bridges, and actually getting resilient infrastructure,
doesn't want
which is
rail.
that 4-lane
We've already-
expressway.
and we're
we
already
have to look
doing
at our
4-lane
focus. You know,
expressway.
it's all very well to have
So, Catherine,
ideological
I think
projects,
it's
which is
not
what Labor's very,
ideological.
very good
It
at.
actually-
Your
We're gonna
light
move on.
rail
So,
project,
next-
your light rail project in Auckland, which you've spent
There's a-
Okay,
$144
Catherine,
million
it's
on,
next turn
but
now.
no
It's
delivery.
next turn now.
Yeah.
There's a fundamental issue here where all we ever talk about is roads and driving. There's not options. Giving people an option between driving on a public road and a toll road is not giving people options. It's just telling them that they have to drive.
But Rob's
everywhere.
point about a feasibility study, what if it doesn't stack up to a passenger rail?
So-
I'm asking Nick.
Yeah.
We know how public transport works overseas. As a nation, we've been kicking this can down the road for generations. Well, that's not even true, because prior to 2001, we had a functioning rail network. The tracks are still there, it's just that they only get
not
used...
between Wairau and Napier, they're not.
But it
But
wasn't
we've committed-
economic
we've
then,
committed to
it
getting-
won't be
to
economic
fixing
now.
that. But you're not,
So it was-
future focused.
It was
I don't
chopped
think
That
up.
is not
It was-
true
I
at
think
all.
we are very future
You're
focused.
not
That's the point.
realistic.
This was a
We're
public
realistic.
good that was chopped up and flogged off by neoliberal capitalists. This is what we need to do is 21st century, OECD country, $2.2 trillion in the economy. Let's be a modern country. Let's give people options. Let's talk about getting trucks off the road so we don't have to be fixing our roads all the time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about coastal shipping. Let's talk about passenger rail so that people can get around. I think it's great, all these massive offices that Rob gets to look around during the day. But when I talk to people who are on minimum wage, who are on the living wage, who are only on the living wage because of fair pay agreements, what they want is to not have to spend $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 on a car and another $5,000 putting fuel in it and another $1,000 insuring it, when they could just get a bus for $1 or $2 between Hastings and Napier, or get on a train.
But that's
down
not
to,
what we're seeing.
Rob,
they are
please,
not
Rob,
taking the
please.
public
It's
transport that is currently there.
Just go to another OECD country. Look how it works. It's amazing. There's trains and buses everywhere, and people move around freely, affordably, and often for free.
How big a population in those cities? Like, we just
We
don't
used
have
to
the
have a
population to
rail
support
service,
that
and I
has.
think it's a great thing for the
I sit
future.
by a bus that drives past it every day, and we count how many people are on it. I think the maximum I've ever seen on the bus is 5 people. And, frequently it's driving past with one person, the driver. It's just insane.
But I think
bad is that for the environment?
So when you start a public transport service, it doesn't make money in the first year. That's a fact. We know that about public transport.
It's not new buses in Hawke's Bay.
It's a public good that gets
But I think what we need
provided
to
by
come
a
back
government
to
for
is-
people so that they
As our
can get
key
around
focuses at the
affordably.
moment, and what's important, and where we actually
I
genuinely
ride the
need to
bus.
spend the
I ride
money.
the bus.
And Labour's left the
committed,
cupboards
we've
bare,
fully
so
funded-
there's not
fully
much
funded
there.
regional
All right.
So we have to be
A year or
pragmatic
two-
about where we're spending
But you haven't
hard-earned
said
A year or
how
two
you pay
ago,
for it.
a
You
year or
have
two ago,
nationally
people,
said
there
how
weren't
they
many
pay
people
for
on the
it.
bus.
You
Now
want-
that the
you
bus
have
has been
not
running
said how
We
you
regularly,
have
pay
everything
You haven't
for a year or
fully
two.
costed, fully
$2.1 billion.
fully
Oh,
costed.
Thank you very
Fully
much.
costed.
Thank
That's
you.
rubbish.
So moving on to the next topic, cost of living crisis. Everyone talks about the middle beans or the squeezed middle. How do we help them? How do we make people get through the cost of living crisis or end the cost of living crisis? Rob?
Well, look, for a start, we've got to look at the cause of it. I mean, this government has been absolutely excessive in their spending, and that wasteful spending has meant they've had to tax everyone very hard. It's also caused a lot of problems to our productivity. What we actually need to do is look at what spending is absolutely necessary in this country, and make sure that we, cut out the waste so that we can deliver genuine tax cuts to people that are hardworking, productive in the society, and also make sure that we can get a competitive environment for the provision of services. I look at sort of housing, for example. It's very, very difficult to build and produce in this country. A subdivision that I'm involved in has taken us 18 months to get the paperwork sorted for only a 4-month physical build phase. It just makes a lot of extra cost, which adds to the mortgage payments.
But, with all due respect, Rob, some people don't even have mortgages. Some of them are renting and just battling to put basic food on the table. How do you help those people, not your clients and most of your voters?
Well, look, at the same time, if you've got a larger supply of housing out there, it's going to make the rents competitive. At the moment, they're really not.
Nick, I'll move over to you and give you a chance to have a say. You would disagree with what he's saying. What do you have to say?
Almost completely. Inflation has been caused mainly by corporate greed, essentially. We've seen record profits
so
in the
corporate
banking.
greed is to blame for the the cost of living crisis?
It's contributing approximately 50% to inflation, whereas wages are contributing barely 25%. Now, in a situation where we have relatively high inflation, and it's not that high, it's higher elsewhere in the OECD, it's actually relatively low. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand has chosen to engineer a recession by their own admission. So dial up the interest rates, which makes everybody who's in debt, which is everybody, pay more to service their debts so that they can't spend as much money in the economy. It's absolute nonsense. So what we propose is introducing a wealth tax, taxing the wealthy and taxing corporations, private wealth over a threshold of $2 million, return the corporate corporations tax to 33% as it was prior to the GFC, and give working people a break.
Nick, we had a situation in Norway where when they introduced a wealth tax, the actual tax take decreased, or when they increased the tax take, because people just left the country.
Now,
but I also think that you can't tax your way out of the debt that this government has got us into.
You're going to take it away from the beneficiaries, are you?
No, you can't tax your way out of the debt.
But your plan
is to cut
your plan is to cut the what is given to beneficiaries to help.
No, we're not cutting. We're not cutting benefits.
Yes, you are.
We're not cutting. We're not. No. We want to drive productivity, and so if we drive productivity, we're going to get our way out of the debt that this government's got us into. But we also believe your question was to the squeezed middle.
Yeah.
How are we going to obviously provide some relief to the squeezed middle? We've already announced a really solid tax relief plan, whereby hard-working New Zealanders should be able to get some tax relief, and that will make sure.
But at what cost?
But it is not. At the moment, hard-working New Zealanders, I'm talking to them every day on the doors, thousands and thousands of them.
Thousands?
They are really struggling. Well, over a period of time.
Have you talked to thousands of people on the doors?
I have spoken to thousands of people on the doors. Okay. Yeah, I have thousands of people on the doors since I was selected back in February. And
That's amazing.
it is. No, but coming back to the point around the cost of living, people are really, really struggling, and we need to provide hard-working New Zealanders with tax relief because they can't get ahead.
And how are you going to pay for those tax cuts?
And it comes back to our National Party values.
How are you going to pay for those tax cuts?
We feel it's a good, solid, well-costed tax relief plan, and it is rock solid. It is absolutely rock solid, and we would like to provide hard-working New Zealanders with tax relief because our belief is, and the National Party values, if you work hard, you should be rewarded.
Are you saying
no, a middle-income earning family, a middle-income earning family can basically get up to $250 tax relief
but
per
what are you
fortnight.
taking off them?
And then other families are $100 per fortnight. There's nothing to be taken off them because we shouldn't be taking things off them.
But
we
you
should
are
be
taking things off them.
What are we not taking anything off them? We are not taking anything. What are we taking off them?
So what you're taking away is you're going to take away the free prescriptions. You're going to you're looking at taking away so much more from the lower income
free
earners.
prescriptions, we believe, free prescriptions
a week compared to you getting $20
a few cents off your carrots in terms of your GST, off your fruit and vegetables.
One at a time, please.
We believe
one at a time.
We believe
we're giving cheaper childcare, $25 a week to working families. We're giving a whole lot more support around growing good jobs. I think the number one thing we can do is to keep growing wages and growing good jobs.
But you can't do that with wastefully spending over and just fueling the inflation that we're seeing at the moment. And that's really, really tough.
So are you saying that paying more for wages to our nurses, to our police officers, to our teachers, the $1 billion a week that you go on about? Are you saying that that's wasteful spending?
No,
The
that is
reality
what
is-
I'm not
increase-
saying that's
reality
wasteful.
is
The
that-
wasteful spending is on your consultants, on your bureaucracy,
Right. You
on
were a
all of the
consultant.
working groups,
You were
on
a
all of the
consultant.
feasibility studies.
Are you saying as a consultant, because you were one, are you saying that's wasteful spending?
No, I'm saying
So
that
what I'm
actually
saying is-
people
Let her
want,
answer. You put a question.
there's good debt and there's bad debt.
All right, but not-
and
but
the
not
debt that
consultants.
we're seeing is basically being spent on a lot of centralisation, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot
I
of
don't buy
back
it.
office,
I don't
and
buy
we
it.
actually want to see
We
it on the
need-
front line. We want to
we
see it on
need-
the front line in
but
our
those
hospitals.
front
We want to
line-
see it on the
those
front line in our
front line-
classrooms, and we want to provide hard-working New Zealanders with tax
There are hard-working New Zealanders who provide the jobs behind those people on the front lines. You know that. So what you're saying is you're going to cut thousands of jobs. You're going to put
We're not
people back
cutting
on.
thousands of
You've
jobs.
just said
Where
get
did
rid of the
we-
bureaucrats.
No.
How many bureaucrats that you call them, these people that work behind the scenes helping our doctors and our nurses and our police?
Okay,
The
let's have a look at
consultants,
that.
Okay.
the consultants
We have
Let Rob have a
already
time.
in those jobs,
Thousands of
Anna.
jobs.
Okay,
It's not
Catherine.
cutting jobs.
Oh, you're not cutting
Consultants-
jobs.
No, because the consultants are already
But you
doing
were a
work.
consultant.
Yes, exactly. But,
So-
but for
so are
many,
you
many,
saying
many,
consultants
many,
aren't
for many
valuable?
Okay.
different businesses,
Are you
Okay.
saying
you don't lose your
consultants
job,
aren't
you
valuable?
lose the work.
Okay.
Or you
Right.
might lose that specific work.
So
That-
you've
and,
said,
and that is
you've
just
said
how it works at the end of the
background.
day.
You've said people in the back, you've called them bureaucrats. You've said that those people
Well, we've
are
already
not
said
worth
that we are
having
basically
jobs.
cutting the
So
amount
that
of
will
money
see-
that's
we
spent
have
on
seen a
consultants.
Okay,
and
let
working
Rob
groups.
have it.
We have seen a
turn.
38% increase in public servants on the back line under Labor.
And I've
have we
14,000.
have we
I
seen
can
any
explain that.
improvement in terms
Yeah.
of education
So
outcomes?
post-
Have we seen any improvement in our health and outcomes? Are people waiting less time to see a
We
doctor? Can
saved-
they get into
There's
CGP?
14,000
Is there
more.
less
Thousands of
crime in this
people
country?
during
No,
COVID.
the answer is our crime is up, our waiting lists are longer, and our kids are not being as well educated as they used to be. They are 5-year-olds that the reading stats are worse than they ever are. The
Crime's
the
out of control.
education
There's many
stats
areas.
versus international measures are worse now than they were when
Okay.
Labor came in.
I'm just going to ask Nick, is the answer to the problem more bureaucracy? More government intervention in people's life to get us through the cost of living crisis?
The cost of living crisis. The recession has been engineered by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and
We're
everyone,
not in recession,
and
though.
everyone else seems to be fine with that.
We were.
We're not.
The fundamental
were.
thing
We were
is
in recession.
it costs money to run a modern, functioning nation. You can pay for that by borrowing, or you can pay for that by taxing. The money has to come from somewhere. You're not going to pay for it with tax cuts. You have to tax, and you have to tax the people that can afford the tax. Taxing everyday working people like
You
us.
can't just keep taxing. You can't just keep
It's
taxing.
a
We
country.
can't just-
It's not-
we need to
jobs.
drive. We're not cutting
You are going
thousands
to
of
cut
jobs.
thousands
We
of
want to
jobs.
drive
Cut.
productivity
It's
and
not
create
business.
more
Cut.
jobs.
Provide
And
it.
by
That's right.
powering up and
Cutting.
supporting our farmers and our growers and the businesses and the exporters
And what about the
that are actually
beneficiaries?
going to
Are you
drive.
going to support
What
the
about
beneficiaries?
when we've got a
Workers.
strong economy? When we've got a strong economy,
But
we're
you're
lifting
going to
incomes for
penalise
all,
the
and we
lowest
are
income
ensuring that
earners.
everybody
Our
is doing
cleaners.
well.
Okay, let
and
Nick
when
have
we've got
another
a strong
turn.
economy,
If you wanna-
everyone is doing
if you
well. And
wanna-
we've got a
We've
weak
had a
economy.
good-
If you want
Okay,
to
let
provide,
Nick
if
have
you want to
turn.
provide tax cuts that will actually help working Kiwis, let's see a $10,000 minimum, a $10,000 tax-free threshold for all earnings, so that everybody who earns money, who actually goes to work and earns money, doesn't have to pay tax on the first $10,000. That's the Green Party's plan, and it would actually be directed at the people who need the tax break, not the people who
trouble
don't.
with that is that what
Okay,
it
Rob,
means is
Karen.
you have a marginal tax rate at the other end that has to be higher. It's the marginal tax rate that provides the incentive or disincentive to get out there and work harder, to add an extra widget to what you're making each week. And if you make that too high, it just discourages people. It makes them make a decision to perhaps go offshore, like so many
Society
Kiwis have.
Society
We're
doesn't
one of the
exist.
lowest taxing countries in the world.
Well,
Australia has a capital gains tax. Australia has a higher tax bracket.
So are you saying
And
that you support a capital gains tax? You support a capital
support
gains.
a bright lines tax.
You
I
support
absolutely-
capital
that is a
gains,
capital
bright
gains
line?
tax. I
See,
support
it is just,
a bright
it's wrong.
line.
Okay, well,
It's not
let's
what New
talk about
Zealand needs
Australia
right
then,
now.
because
think
Australia's
and they
income...
So you
Okay,
support a
let
capital
Rob
gains
finish.
tax, a bright line test.
The
So we're going to bring that back. So we're going to bring the bright line back.
And
Yes.
feed
And we're going to
property
get rid of it
investors.
altogether.
Feed property investors. That's what
It
you
is
want
not
to do.
feeding
It
property
is.
investors.
It is.
It's opening up opportunity.
It's
It's
letting
providing
people
more
stop
housing
I
and
work
more
with property
infrastructure and
investors
driving
regularly.
productivity. That's what we need. And we need to see productivity.
Okay.
And
So
under this
one of
government,
the-
Look,
we've
Anna-
seen it squeezed.
Okay.
We've seen it shrinking.
Let Rob have a
Anna
say.
talked about Australia, and look, the reality is that in Australia, they earn $23,000 more per annum than we do here in New Zealand.
So
on
support fair
average.
pay
Now,
agreements.
so support
the-
fair pay agreements. Productivity and fair pay agreements co-align. We know that fair pay agreements, to
Well-
make sure we've got a basic floor in Australia, they are one of the fundamental things that have improved productivity. Investment into
Fair
technology.
pay agreements, no.
So
They
That
just
does
create
not
a lot of
improve
red
productivity.
tape.
It
They do
creates more
improve.
bureaucracy,
No, it
more red tape,
doesn't.
and more control.
So
You
hang on.
wanting
That
to
is not
control
the reason,
people's
Amanda.
individual
about having-
lives and
it's about
businesses.
having
You know, we
OECD
want limited
standards
government.
in our
So-
economy.
Limited government.
No.
Okay.
Not
All right, we're going to move on
centralisation.
to a less contentious subject, crime.
Crime.
Oh, yes.
No. So Anna, I'll start with you. So you reduced prison numbers by 30%. Has crime dropped by 30%?
No. But what I
How
will
do you
say-
explain that? Surely it's a simple equation.
So there is an increase in crime across the world at the moment. But what I will say is what we have increased is 1,800 more police on the beat. That came after a freeze on new police and cutting our community cop stations. 1,800 more police on the beat, 105 in eastern districts. We've also committed to another 300, which National was now going to do again. But what I don't want to
So
see,
we
what I
committed to
don't,
more
but you
police
didn't,
officers.
you put a freeze on police numbers, a freeze.
But
and
he's
those
asking
a
about the
freeze.
crime problem,
So
and
the
so we've
crime
got-
problem, what I
But you
what
have
I
reduced
think-
the prison
so
numbers.
just because
what
you've got
I-
more
what
police
I
on the beat
believe-
doesn't mean that
what I
crime's gone down.
believe, what I believe is there's two parts to it. We definitely have more people reporting crime. We know in violent crime we have people commit.
It's not just
people-
reporting crime though,
Can I
Anna.
just-
People are
can I-
feeling
Okay.
it on the ground.
I'm not. I
There's
am not
ram raids.
arguing. I
You
am
know,
not. So I'm not arguing with
Violent
you.
crime.
I am
It is
not
out of
arguing.
control.
It is not out of control.
It is out of
It is
control.
not
Some
out of
people may
control.
say that it is
I've
out of
said-
control.
I've said.
Are you
that I
saying crime
agree.
is not out of control?
What I'm saying
It's
is
out of
there's
control
been an
here in
increase.
Hawke's Bay,
There
it
is-
is.
there has been an increase
So
in
it's
violent
not out
crime.
of control. You're saying to the
I'm
voters
saying that we are
crime
putting
is
in-
not out of
we
control.
are putting more resource
Can you answer
to
my
our
question?
police. I don't believe that crime is out of control. I believe there has been an increase in violent crime. I was saying that the increase in violent crime that we are seeing reported includes family and home violence, and that is a good thing. And that is across all
I don't
of
think
the
any
region.
increase in crime
And
is a good thing. It
Well,
is
I
not
think
a good thing.
reporting...
Increase in crime is not a good thing,
Sorry,
Anna.
I
We
said
need safer
reporting.
communities. We need
Catherine,
safer communities.
Catherine, I said reporting of family violence is a good thing to have it reported.
But we're not
And
talking
what-
necessarily about family violence.
But
we're
you
talking
asked
about
me about- you
ram
asked me about
raids.
violent crime.
We're talking about youth crime
Yeah.
and ram
and we are
raids.
cracking down on those. We have
By
seen a
reducing
drop.
the prison
We
numbers.
we are dropping. We've seen a drop in the number of ram raids. We have seen a drop.
Depends how you look at the statistics.
and
they are
then
still
the next-
happening. There was
and
one in
what we-
Clive just last week.
And
like
and
straight
I'm not
into
one
the
ram
Clive
raid
Dairy.
is too many. And I absolutely think that is not the right, that's wrong. But you have to tackle it at both ends. We have increased the charges.
Where have you been tackling
for,
it? Where are you tackling it?
Because it's so important.
'Cause you've had a
that
soft
we
on crime
get-
approach.
And that's it. That is what the National Party does every time, just soft on crime. But you haven't actually said what you're going to do.
We
to
have. We've actually got a lot of
Okay,
policies.
so give Catherine the chance
okay.
to say then.
Okay, so basically there's many areas that we are going to toughen up on crime, and one of the areas is getting on top of the gangs. We've got a huge problem with gangs at the moment, particularly in Hawke's Bay. So we've had a 71% increase in gang membership here alone in Hawke's Bay. And so we're saying that we actually need to crack down on the gangs. And we are going to equip the police with more tools to be able to tackle the gangs. And that includes banning gang patches in public. It also includes banning gatherings, public gatherings.
We've put in
and it
new rules
also is
around
going to
gathering
empower them to be
gangs.
able to get hold of those illegal weapons as
And
well.
we've put
And
those
we're going
measures
to,
in
just when
already.
it's my turn to talk, and we're also going to make it an aggravating feature in sentencing if you're a gang member. So we're sending a powerful message to the gangs that it's not acceptable to shut down towns in New Zealand. It's not acceptable to shut down roads and schools and everything here in New Zealand.
But
We
now
need to
Anna's
create
made a
safer
point
communities.
about-
We've already
Anna
put
said they've
in
made a
those.
point about cracking down
We
on the gangs.
have.
They've had
We've got-
Operation
Well, they
Cobra.
haven't done a very
Operation
good
Cobalt.
job, and they've
Hang
currently
on,
got the
hang on.
gangs coming around New Zealand, going to all of the different meetings, trying to encourage people to
That's
vote for
rubbish.
Labour. They're trying
That's
to
rubbish.
encourage people to vote
So,
for Labour.
Catherine, let's
They've
talk
been
about
at two
patches.
meetings
Okay,
here,
one at a
one in
time.
Let's talk
Napier
about
and one in
You can
Tukituki.
answer. So
let's
So
talk
they're
about
supporting
gang
Labour.
associates
They're not supporting
and gang
National because
patches.
they know National's going to crack down on
so
them.
I'd
But
What do you
Labour
say to
hasn't
that, Anna?
introduced-
What do you say to
so
that?
two things. I think that we have to look at how we are getting young people into work too. And I don't...
So that's one element of it, but that's
hang
not
on,
cracking down on
hang
the gangs.
Hang on.
That's not cracking down on the gangs.
So how do
So
you
how are you gonna
feel...
crack down on the gangs?
How do you feel about gang associates and supporting charities that work with gang associates?
Gangs
How-
are not
how-
acceptable
so-
in Hawke's
so-
Bay or across
so-
New
but
Zealand.
how do you
So
And
you
feel
say ban
about
them.
supporting...
Pardon? No, well,
Houston.
So you
National
won't
is
support
going to crack
charities?
down
Okay,
on
Anna,
gangs.
hold on.
When gangs are fueling a lot of the crime that we're seeing, and they're fueling a lot of
Nobody
the,
likes
social
gangs.
issues that we're seeing in our communities, we need to crack down.
Yeah.
And National is going to crack down on the gangs.
Okay.
And we're sending a powerful message.
Let's hear what
And
Nick's
how
got
do
to
you
say.
feel
Nick,
about
so
supporting
what do you
charities?
say
How do you,
about the
Petra?
solution to the crime problem? And is it out of control? And what would you do with the gangs?
We know from the facts that crime is trending downwards. It's moving in the right direction.
If you ask the average person on the street, they wouldn't say that.
That's
Violence.
how
We're talking
they're
about
feeling. They're
violence. It's
genuinely
getting-
feeling scared.
So
and very fearful.
only the Green Party has a plan to address the root causes of crime. Only the Green Party has a plan to
That is not
end
true.
poverty. End poverty. Only the Green
Yeah,
Party
but what are you
has
going
a
to do
plan
about
to...
crime now? Those solutions will take a while to come into
We're going
effect.
to end poverty.
But
We're
what,
going-
tomorrow?
We're going to...
I mean, crime is happening. How are you going to stop the crime happening now, today?
happening now.
Yeah.
It is being stopped. It's
Well,
going...
it's not though, Nick. It's
It's out of
very
control.
real. It is
Crime-
literally
it's
out
not.
of
You keep-
control.
you keep
We're
saying
seeing
that.
ram raids.
Crime is
Okay.
down.
Almost
One
two
at
a
a time.
day.
Crime
Two a
is-
day.
crime
Use
is
crimes
down.
down.
It's
Yeah,
trending
living
down.
Hawke's
Okay, let Nick finish.
Crime is down and it's trending downwards.
It's not,
The
though.
answer, whatever it's doing, the answer is not locking them up and throwing away the key. Which
Or
is
building
all-
a bigger prison.
Or building
No,
bigger
but-
prisons,
but
which is
bigger-
all we ever
bigger
hear from the right.
prisons.
We need to resource.
You can't
we need
just
to resource
reduce the prison
restorative.
population by 30%.
Sorry, it's my turn to talk. We need to resource restorative justice solutions that deal with the offender and also.
Do you believe in prisons? Do you believe prisons work, Nick?
I think prisons are universities of crime. I think if somebody is sent there for a relatively minor offence, they're more likely to come out with more of an education in how to commit worse crime than if they had been dealt with differently.
Yeah.
We also have an issue with how to deal with people when they come out of prison. There's a lack of wraparound services for people who are coming out of prison and trying to reintegrate with the society.
Rob, do you think that criminals are treated better than the victims?
Look, the government has been focused on the criminal. They have been cuddling the criminal. And
Rubbish.
Look, the reality is that they have not been victim-centric. We would change that. We think that, at the moment, if you get awarded a reparation, the court will determine that can be paid over an extended period of time, sometimes effectively re-victimising the victim. There's been an example where someone was being paid 65 cents a week for like 10 years. I mean, imagine seeing that coming into your bank account, reminding you of the offence that you've suffered. every week. I mean,
But if
that's
a person can't pay it, they can't pay it.
so what we would do is we would take that funding out of the Proceeds of Crime Act, crime fund, and we would pay the victim and let the courts collect that from the perpetrator, and we would get tough on crime. For a start, the ACT Party has always been the party that has been toughest on crime. We would continue that. We would bring
more
back
prison beds
a
year.
Yes, that's right.
2,000. And where are they going to be built?
Well, we'll build them where they need to be built.
Right, but
probably
so what does
inside
that mean
existing
for Hawke's Bay?
prison facilities. Look, as far as I'm concerned, it's better they're in prison than they're out on the streets. Right now, they're out in the streets. There is a huge number of people. I have
How are
stats
you-
here.
how are you gonna-
Hold on, one at a time,
A
Catherine.
60% increase of people on home detention and 90% increase on them absconding from home detention in this country under your watch. You know, how is that keeping us safe?
When you say no, I'm not making an excuse for it. What I'm saying to you is if you were to build more prison beds in Hawke's Bay, what we've seen over the years from being a prison region is that we do see serious criminals coming in here and with them bring their associates. I think that there is a lot of our social problems in Hastings have become through being a prison region. I don't want to see.
So are you wanting to get rid of the prisons?
prisons.
Are you wanting to get rid
What
of
I
the prisons?
don't-
in
You
Hawke's
have
Bay?
to
What I-
have
So you want to
What
get
I
rid
am-
of prisons?
Catherine, what I'm saying is I don't want a bigger prison. I don't want to see more prison beds built in
Look,
Hawke's Bay.
But wait, who's
Well,
saying we're
prison-
building more prison beds?
our-
Who's saying we're building
you
more prison beds?
and
No, we're
ACT,
not. That is
you and ACT
absolutely
want
untrue.
to have a coalition
I think
of
it's
cuts and
unfair to
chaos.
make up
So-
untrue,
so-
untrue
no, I think it
statements.
is true.
No,
Because-
we're not building a bigger prison.
So-
it's
so-
not about
Catherine-
building bigger prisons. It's about toughening up on crime in many different
But
areas,
Catherine-
including the
But
gangs.
Catherine, she has got a point. If you go into coalition with ACT, you probably will
But
build
that's not our
bigger.
National Party policy.
But
It's
yeah,
not
but-
our National Party
Just
policy.
be a national-
But it is
our
ACT's
policies
policy.
are around. Can
You
I?
can't.
No,
You
our
can't
policies
say
are around
that.
cracking down on the gangs, but also
How are you going to
providing
police
more
the
opportunity.
patching
If people
cuts?
want to rehabilitate their lives, National will provide them
National's
the
never
ability
done that.
to rehabilitate. Okay, and we will provide support to those victims. But if
How?
people choose to reoffend over and over again, there will be tougher consequences.
And there are now.
And
There
we
are
need
tough
to ensure that there
consequences now.
aren't tougher
There
consequences.
are. People are in prison.
aren't.
People
With a
are getting
30%
charged.
reduction in the prison
50,000,
population and a little
50,000.
slap across the hands. The number of
50,000.
victims
Rubbish.
that I'm out talking to the
Okay.
whole time
Let me
that
give you
feel
some
like they've had
statistics
no
on this, Anna.
support.
There are 50 people accused of homicide and 70 people accused of kidnapping or abduction on bail in this country at the moment.
So sorry, can you say
120
charged or
people
convicted?
charged, but they're on bail.
Right,
Of such
so-
serious
yeah.
offences, and they are on bail. So those people should be locked up until their hearing
I don't-
has
I don't-
been.
Well, we just
I
need
don't
to ensure
know
that we have
what they've
safer
done.
You have
communities,
removed
Anna.
the
We
free-
have to have safer
But
communities.
when we talk about safer communities, Catherine, I think it's also important to look at how we are working with people and getting young people into work and rehabilitation.
Well, exactly, and
Now,
so that
you
comes
know-
to education.
No,
so
no,
education is really,
I'm
really
just gonna
important, and
ask
at the
you,
moment
though,
we're going
when you
backwards
talk
in
about
those areas.
banning gang
So it's
patches,
all interrelated.
When you talk about banning gang patches and just having them at home, how do people know out in the community that we live in, if they come across a gang member, if they're not
The
wearing
gang
a patch?
patches are very, very intimidating, and obviously to get a gang patch, you have had to have gone and committed
But you
a crime,
also
a
know,
serious offence,
you also know
and
when
we've seen a
people don't
victim,
wear
and we've seen
patches.
unsafe
So
communities
are you saying
as a
that
consequence
only a
of
patch?
that.
So are you saying that only a patch? So people can colour up, they can have tattoos, they can attend community events, and you full well know about those things. How can you say that banning gang patches is going to be the thing that hides gang members? And
Anna, we need to get on top of the gang problem in New Zealand. We've got gangs taking over towns,
Okay.
taking over roads,
Look,
and we
I'd
need
really like-
to crack down on the gangs.
But
And
banning
National
gang
is the party
patches
of
is
law and
not
order,
going to be
and
the
we will
thing
crack down on
that
it.
I would
Okay.
like to
Well-
address
Gangs won't
youth
go
crime
because
because
they
we
haven't
haven't
got
actually
patches.
discussed youth crime very much in this discussion so far. But we believe
Well,
that
you've got 30 seconds.
we need a staged approach. We need immediate consequences for youth crime. So we want to bring in...
Throw the kids in jail, you
No,
say?
we want to actually have them out with like a speeding ticket type sentence, that the next day they're out tagging, removing tagging off a wall or picking up rubbish, so they know there's consequences and boundaries. At the moment it takes years to get through the court process, and most of the time the sentence, it gets dropped along the way through. Then we need to know that actually if their parents don't know where they are and they're out ram raiding at night, that someone does, and that's why we say, hey look, we actually need to think about whether we put electronic bracelets on some of these kids so that someone knows where they are, and then in the worst case scenario, we do need to put them somewhere where they are safe and they are being looked after in
We
a prison
haven't
type
Can I
situation.
just say one
haven't
thing on
s-
the crime is that I've been out to so many businesses here in Tukituki that
How
have either
many?
been the victim of a ram
But how
raid,
many,
smash
Catherine?
and grabs,
Let her
just so
finish.
much
How many?
crime.
But
it's
how
happening all
many?
the time, like
So-
weekly
so-
there's something
so
happening.
I-
One at
and
a
even
time, please.
talking
One
to
at a
the
time.
police
But I think
as well.
I think it's
fair.
fair.
It
I
is
think it's
increasing.
fair.
Crime is increasing out
Did
there, and
I-
we need to
So
have tougher
I want to know
consequences.
from you, when you say you've been out every day visiting people who are the victim of crime, how many people have you seen that says that it's out? How many dairies have you been to?
And I've been to lots of
How
dairies.
how
and
many?
but
How many?
I
How-
think
I
it's,
don't think we need
I
to
think
get into
that's
detail.
an
I
unfair
think
question.
the
But I
other
think
day,
it's a
Clive
fair
was
enough.
ram raided. We've
No.
had the milk bar
Yep,
up
and
done in
I've
Havelock.
visited
We've had
dairies
the
too,
Frimley
so
ram raided
four.
3 times in a couple of months, and then
And
we've
no one's
also
taken
had.
away.
No, but you just asked
No
me, so
one-
I'm explaining
four.
to you
You've been
and
to
telling
4
you.
dairies.
And then we've had the Michael Hill that's in town that's been done over and
5.
over again. That they've now got a security guard there. There's basically the 2 degrees they've been done, and then the other day, just in Hastings, we went along and they smashed all the windows all through the main street there. It's real. It's really,
I'm
really
not
real
saying
on the
it's
ground.
not real.
It's
Sounds
not.
like
So
we
I
can
can
have
give you
a
examples.
society. Real, but
I can
what
give,
I'm
and then the other
thinking-
day I door knocked this lovely old lady, and she'd actually been taken in a car and she'd been attacked, and it was just, it almost makes me cry to
And
think
I've been
what
a
she
victim
went
of a
through.
home burglary
And it was
as
it was
well.
horrible.
And I know what
and so
that's
it
like.
is real.
But
And these stories
it
are
is-
not just reports and made up.
No one is saying anything's made up, but what we are saying is that there is a whole lot of stuff going on to crack down on crime, and to say that we're soft on crime, and suddenly that the National Party is going to come in, take all the gang patches off gang members, and that is going to make
But
this
even
place
just
safer.
the other day, I was
It
talking
won't
to.
make it
I was
Okay,
safe.
let
I
her-
was
let her answer.
just, and you asked for examples, and I'm going to give you the examples
Good.
because literally, I was in a cafe the other day, and one of the staff came up to me and said that her husband was out early in the morning and had basically been the victim of speed and chase of gangs, basically trying to stop him, and then he had to shoot off the other way, and he was just scared for his life, and he managed to race away from these gang members, but he was basically had no idea what was going to happen to
So
him.
no
Okay.
He
one
was
is
almost
taking away.
shaking,
No one
telling
We're
me
gonna
his
move on.
story. But
No,
all
but
I'm
I've
saying
been a
is that
victim.
it's
I've been
real.
a victim of a
It's
home
real,
burglary.
and it's
I
not
know
just
what
Okay,
it feels
we
like.
don't have much time
I
left,
know
so we're
what
going to
it
move
feels
on.
like to be a
So
victim
Nick,
of a
what-
home burglary.
Just turn into health and that, and obviously there's lots of issues with it. One of the major things now is, the government has taken any payment of subscription, so your prescriptions, are free. Should that money rather be used for more cancer, funding for cancer, for example?
So the Green Party will resource Pharmac to make
How will you do that?
with a fairer tax system.
Okay, so
Yeah.
everything is hinged on this wealth tax you want.
But everything's not hinging on the wealth tax, but we have a situation where large corporations are making record profits and excess profits that are going untaxed. A lot of those profits are going straight offshore, again, untaxed. So with a fairer tax system, we can have the things that we deserve as a country, the things that other OECD countries have, like a functioning health system, a good education system. We have those things now, but there's always room for improvement. You pay for that in a modern society, either through debt or through taxation.
Now, Anna, many people who earn the upper to middle class middle to upper class taxpayers, they don't really need, $5 off their prescriptions and that. Surely it's better to put it into cancer treatment.
Well, I think we need to do both, and we've already
Why haven't
increased.
you?
We have announced that we will be increasing funding to Pharmac. 51% increase in Pharmac.
But for specific for cancer treatments?
Yes, we have. And so 51% increase in Pharmac because they make decisions around the cancer treatments to fund. I actually think the universal way of zero on prescription fees has been an excellent policy that the pharmacies say is helping everybody. Now,
I don't need to pay for my
You don't need a
prescription.
$20 20-hour a week.
I don't need to pay for my. I don't need to pay for my prescription.
You do not
we
need
believe
it. Neither
that
does
it
Chris
should be
Luxon,
better
and
tested.
You do not
to
need
obviously
a
go to the people
$20
that
a
need
week
the free
tax cut.
prescriptions.
So this is the difference.
But that money
so
could be used for cancer
I actually think
treatments.
this is the difference. I think that when you say you don't need this, but you want to give yourself a $20 a week tax cut when those in the lowest incomes
but we're talking
are getting a
healthcare
tax
and we're talking
cut
free
of
prescriptions.
$2.50.
We're talking
No, but
free
it works, but
prescriptions
you
and
can't-
universal free
because
prescriptions.
you can't fund it.
We do not
You
believe that we
cannot
should have
fund it.
universal free
I do.
prescriptions.
I believe that
So-
everybody
Yeah,
should
but
have
we
a
believe that
So
that
Catherine,
money,
so
for
you would
example,
put
that
more
money,
money,
so
you
the
would
money
put more
that,
money, let me finish, you'll
Yeah.
put more money into cancer, more cancer
Yes,
treatment for
yeah,
people.
yeah.
You would
So-
take that prescription
yes,
money away.
Yeah, so we would basically say that we would means test the free prescriptions, and so obviously those free prescriptions
But not
would go to
means
the
test
people
anything
that
else.
would people that need it, and then obviously the people that don't need it, like myself, that money would then be redirected back into cancer treatments where we feel that that would save lives,
Yeah.
and it would be used at a very, very good cause.
Yeah.
But
and-
we
and
are
directed
investing
a
more in
different way.
cancer treatments.
And so
and
that's
we've
really
increased
important.
Pharmac
It's
funding
called pragmatic
by
spending.
51%. It's not pragmatic when you give yourself a $20 a week tax cut. And
I think
that's the difference.
hard-working
And
New Zealanders should be
$20 a week. You don't need
rewarded.
So I want to hear now what Rob has to say. Okay, Rob,
Well, look,
what
for
do you
us-
think the solution to this problem? Do you want to get free prescriptions, or do you want to have more access to cancer?
Look, we think that we need to do a major review on Pharmac. And so, look, and probably the reality is we need to have a fee on prescriptions, but a small fee that's not, impossible for people to pay. But it also provides some sort of incentive so that people actually ration that resource rather than just get it whether they think they'll take it or not. And look, we want to increase GP funding by 13% as well. We want to allow much better use of...
Yeah, how are you going to, got a point there, how are you going to fund that?
Well, we've got a fully costed alternative budget. Go and read
at least
it.
you've got one.
Yeah,
National doesn't.
It is a fully costed alternative budget.
We
Nobody
are
has
always
questioned
better
any of it.
economic managers than Labor.
It has been adjusted since Labor left the cupboards bare and we read the pre-fu.
Preview was better. Jobs, no recession, economy going stronger.
We recognise that, hey,
Growth.
look, they have left the books in an absolute terrible state.
don't accept
We have got a honest, fully costed budget that will allow us to get back in the black much sooner and without getting as deep into debt as any other
But you're
party
going to
in this
increase
country.
tax.
It
Okay.
will also allow us to lower tax,
But you're
make
going to
it more
increase tax,
affordable.
Rob.
We are not going to
You're going
increase
to increase.
tax.
You're going to increase the base tax to what?
No one under our tax plan will be worse off.
No, but you're going to increase. You're going to increase. What is that? 28%.
No, let me explain to you. I'm happy to explain
Okay,
it.
go for
No
it.
one will
Look,
be
we
worse
will
off.
No
have
one will
a
be
low-income subsidy for
Oh, so
those
you are
that
gonna subsidise?
well, we're going to a low-income tax offset for those that are on the very lowest incomes. But we will have 17.5% on the first 60,000.
How about a tax-free
But no
threshold
one will
for
be
people
better
on
off, worse off under X tax
Okay.
plan
All right.
than they are
We're going to
under
have
the
to move
current
on
one.
because we're
But
nearly,
what I
we're
would
nearly
just-
finished. No, I think you've had your say now. What we're going to move on to, and I want short answers on this. 2 questions left. The first one is co-governance. Nick, What's your view on co-governance? Is it important to have, or is it's caused a lot of division? What's your view on it?
Co-governance is working well in a number of public and private sector institutions. It's not new, it's been around for 20 years. It's not the end goal, but it is a good first step in ensuring that the Crown upholds their responsibilities under Te Tiriti o Waitangi.
Catherine, what do you say to that?
Oh, we believe in one person, one vote. We're
So
all
do
New
we.
Zealanders, and it should be about equal citizenship and equal opportunity. And
Do we
don't
have an
believe
equal
in-
country?
we-
Are Māori at a level where they can be equal to,
We
or
don't-
have they been disadvantaged?
We don't believe in co-governance of our public services, so National would get rid of the Māori Health Authority. We don't believe that it should be a separate level of bureaucracy. We believe that health can be addressed through one main ministry, and
But that
it doesn't
hasn't
need to be
worked.
separate. We would
It
also
hasn't
scrap
worked.
3 waters. We don't
Oh,
believe
and
in co-governance
rates are going to
of
go
water,
through the
and
roof.
are very, very
Anna's got a
important.
point.
Rates are
Doesn't
going to
that
go
mean
through the
rates
roof.
will go through the roof?
You've just announced,
it
you have
doesn't.
just
It's
announced
not. It
that
doesn't
there's
mean
nothing
no.
in your budget.
That's Labor
Nothing in your
making
budget.
up information and
Your
providing
budget
this information.
has
Okay.
absolutely nothing
That's
Anna
just
will-
factually wrong.
for it.
Factually wrong.
Right. So,
Yeah, factually
so,
wrong. But
oh,
the question is around co-governance,
So-
and to your
so-
point, no, we do not believe
Okay,
in
Anna, what's your
co-governance
view on
of our
co-governance?
public services.
John Key.
No, answer
set
the
out-
question about-
I believe working in partnership with Māori is a way for the future. I absolutely believe that we need to work together with Māori on a whole range of issues.
Isn't
And I
it
think-
divisive?
I think that what we do...
We can all work together with Māori.
Isn't it
That's-
divisive?
That's of
What-
course,
in
but the question is
partnership with
around
Māori,
co-governance
Okay.
and the co-governance.
And there are many, many good examples of where co-governance is working. And John Key set up Matariki here and said that it needed to be 50-50. And that isn't for our Regional Economic Agency. And that happened in 2016, and it's been one of the best ways of working together here in Hawke's Bay.
Okay.
I do want to pick up Three Waters, though. I do.
In
And affordable
15
water
seconds.
reform. National, under national, repeal it, and rates will go through the roof. And every single person in Hawke's Bay will be paying more
That is
in
wrong.
rates.
It's misinformation.
So
I believe
rates
that's
won't go up. You
absolute-
can
No.
guarantee
you
that
can
rates won't
guarantee-
go up.
Is-
You
no,
can guarantee
that
rates
is-
aren't
you
going to go
can't
up.
just be making up information.
But you've provided
That is-
no
that is-
information,
that-
Catherine.
that-
You've
Okay.
given councils
Rob?
no
No,
information.
we're
Rob, give
repealing
your
Three
view
Waters.
on
We don't believe it is
co-governance.
the
You're
right way
not
forward.
supportive of co-governance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We don't believe in co-governance. We believe that everybody should have the same vote and equal
But they
rights.
do
And
now have
no,
the- well,
no.
you
What
do.
they don't have is a part. The Māori are being put on with a 50% say. That is not. That is what co-governance is. The Three Waters boards, for example, the
No, the
appointment of the
boards are
three.
not. The
Okay, but the
boards are
appointment of
not.
the Three Water boards.
No,
that is.
the region. So what we've done in
No,
Three Waters
It is not
that
democratic.
Every mayor
it should be.
has a.
It should be the people that decide.
So-
Everybody
so
that
we-
should have one vote, the same vote.
And that's what will happen.
And
on
the other thing is that we
professional
believe
board
that the
Three
delivery
Waters.
of public service should be entirely based on people's need, not based on what race or ethnicity they are. The other thing that we would like to do is get rid of Three Waters altogether. We think it would be better run by councils. The reason I say that
Councils
is
can't
actually
afford
because
it. Councils can't afford
they
it.
have afforded it for the last
They
long
ha-
time.
and
but
look
what
what's
we would
happened.
do,
That's
but
the
what
problem.
we
They
would
haven't.
do is give them 50% of GST receipts
Allocation.
on construction. And
So
so
what
that
would
they
that
Because
do
Rob,
to
they do
afford
have
it.
a point there. You've got a council like Central Hawke's Bay, which is this massive land area, but a very small rate base.
And that is
How are
why,
they going to?
well, that's what I just said. We have a 50% on construction. So if you build a house and pay $100,000 in GST on the construction of that house, 50,000 of that would go to the local council. That would help them pay for the infrastructure that is needed to support that house and the growth of that community. That is how
Last
we would
word on
address
this
it.
issue to Nick.
We've had a one-size-fits-all approach in this country for 183 years, and all it has led to is unequitable outcomes for Māori and Pacifica and degrading infrastructure in things like our water. something has to be done, and we're not honouring Te Tiriti. We can do both of those things with co-governance.
Okay, our final question. So we'll start with Nick. Okay, you've all been on the campaign trail for quite a while. Very briefly, can you tell me what you think of each of your opponents? By name.
Yeah, we've had a good laugh actually. We've got to know each other well over the last couple of months, and we've all been. It gets hot on in the debate, but yeah, we've all been having a giggle backstage and enjoying each other's company. So you like Rob? Yeah, we're all personally we're all getting on very well. We all want what is best for our grandchildren, essentially. We've just got different ways of getting there. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Anna, what do you think of your opponents here?
I've known Catherine a long time. We've worked together, and we've worked on campaigns together. Our children know each other, and we have had a long time in association together. So I've known Catherine a long time.
So you're friends?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got Rob and we've got Nick here, and they have been great at balancing everything out, and the humour from both of them has been fantastic. So I think there's a lot of energy and drive in our campaign, and look, there's never been any love lost between Catherine and I on politics, and there never will be. But when it comes to actually working together for the region, we've proved before we can do it. I think Hawke's Bay has particularly Tukituki, has a fantastic opportunity. Catherine's going to Parliament on the list, and me as the local MP, we will get a whole lot of better representation for Tukituki.
Catherine, what do you think of the other three?
Well, I think that we're all passionate about
Clearly.
representing the region, and we all obviously want to be the electorate MP. As Anna has said, I've got a high place on the list at number 23, which is a great endorsement from the National Party for provincial New Zealand and for Tukituki. National backs our provinces, and I think, really, really wants
So you agree with Anna that you are friends?
Voice around the table in Wellington, and I think that's really, really important. But I love Nick's humour in a lot of our debates. It's been good, and his passion, and Rob as well. It's been a good journey.
Yeah. Anyone else you want to mention?
The commitment. We've all been working hard on the campaign, and we're all really, really driven to be the next local electorate MP.
Well, Nick doesn't want to be, but he'll take it if he gets it, I suppose.
Oh yeah, no, I'll take the protest vote. But the important thing is everyone party votes, Greg.
Yes.
And Rob, how have you got on with the three of them? When you've got a word in edgeways.
Yeah. I just wish I'd shut up sometimes so I could say something. No, look. No, it's been fun on the campaign trail. I like people, like them all, and I think we will work together with whomever is in Wellington with me, as long as we get about 12.5%. We need another 0.5%, guys. So give us another party vote, and then
we'll all be there.
Okay, we're going to wrap up now. We'll give you. I mean, if you can keep your statement, your closing statement brief. But we'll give you 2 minutes. But if you finish up early, that's great. So Nick, we'll start with you.
Party vote Green this election. Only the Green Party will take the bold action that is required to address the climate crisis, end poverty, end family and sexual violence, and protect nature on the land, in the sea, and in our waterways. We will end poverty together. We promise, we've made a pledge to renters that rentals will be more affordable and higher quality. We're promising free dental for all. All of these things are possible in the Aotearoa of the future, and we can pay for it all with a fairer tax system. So we need more Green MPs in the next Parliament, so please, party vote Green.
Anna, your turn.
I'm asking you to vote Anna Hawke, your local MP for Tukituki. I have the experience, I've shown how to get things done. It takes action and positivity, passionate commitment and a strong voice to stand up for Hawke's Bay, as I have done and will continue to do so as your local MP. Vote Anna Lork for Tukituki.
Catherine Wedd.
Well, I think there's a clear choice in this election. It's either more dysfunction, divide and economic mismanagement under Labour to Party Māori and the Greens, or it's a strong, stable national government which will strengthen the economy, reduce the cost of living, restore law and order and ensure we have better education and health outcomes. It's got to be 2 ticks blue to get Tukituki back on track. Party vote national, vote for change and vote for Catherine Wedd for Tukituki.
Rob Douglas, your turn.
I have a vision for a safe, prosperous and united New Zealand, one where victims' rights trump those of criminals' rights and there are consequences for crime again, where people are no longer categorised based on who their ancestors were, but instead united by the treaty, and where public service is delivered based on need. You are careful with your hard-earned money and expect the government to be too, but instead this government has been wasteful and reckless with it, not only costing you thousands in tax for no benefit, but also lowering our productivity as a country, meaning that our wages are lower than they should be, and we struggle to retain our doctors, nurses, policemen and teachers. Look, some people will say to you that the only way to ensure a change of government is to party vote for national. Well, I say that there is a better way, and that is to party vote ACT, where you get change of government plus a change of direction. Because ACT is going to work with national, a party vote for ACT will mean that you will get a change of government. A stable coalition government with 2 parties ready to tackle the challenges that we face as a country. But a party vote for ACT will also be a vote for real change. We can't swap red for blue and just keep doing the same things with different managers. We actually need a change of direction. Do you actually think that we are in real trouble, or do you think that we can just keep doing what we're doing? To double the value of your vote, please give your party vote to ACT for a change of government and a change of direction.
Well, that's the end of our Tukituki candidates debate. Thank you to the candidates, or some of the candidates. We weren't able to have all the candidates here today, so we chose the 4 parliamentary parties. So thank you, Rob, Catherine, Anna and Nick for your time. Once again, thanks to Number 5 Cafe and Larder for hosting us, and for Engage Video for producing and broadcasting this. And I just want to remind you that Hawke's Bay app will be having live coverage on the night of the election, 14th October. So please go onto our app, onto our website, onto our Facebook page and follow us for all the action. And may the best person win. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.